All right, today we're talking about a skill that can honestly change everything about how you communicate and connect with people. It's called active listening. And I'm not just talking about being quiet while someone else talks. It's way more than that. It's really an art. So let's start with a little bit of ancient wisdom because it just hits the nail on the head. I mean, think about it. The philosopher Epictetus said this almost 2,000 years ago, and it just perfectly sets the stage for what we're about to get into. Listening isn't passive, it's this powerful, deliberate act. So, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to start with what it really is, then get into why it's such a game changer. After that, we'll look at the actual techniques, figure out what helps versus what hurts, and then wrap up with a super practical way to use all of it. Okay, first things first. What even is active listening? I'm telling you, it is a whole different world from just hearing stuff. And this right here is such a crucial distinction to make. You know, hearing, that's just a physical thing. Sound waves hit your eardrum, your brain gets the message. It's totally automatic. But active listening, that's a choice. It's an attitude, right? It's deciding to really be present, to be a mindful participant, all with the goal of actually understanding each other.
So, and this is really important. You gotta remember that active listening is a skill you learn. It's not something you're just born with. It's all about digging deeper. You're trying to get not just the words, but the real meaning and the intent behind them. And that right there is the absolute foundation of good communication.
All right, so why does this matter so much? I mean, what's the real payoff for getting good at this?
Oh man, the benefits are just huge. Think about it. In your personal life, it builds insane amounts of trust. It makes people feel genuinely seen and valued. At work, it completely slashes misunderstandings, which means better teamwork, better problem solving. And get this, there's even research showing it can help people with social anxiety feel less distressed just by offering that real emotional support. Now, here's something we almost always forget when we think about listening. A mind-blowing 65% of what someone is trying to tell you isn't even in the words they're saying. So what does that mean? It means if you're only paying attention to the words, you're missing, like, most of the conversation. To really be an active listener, you have to turn into a great observer. You kind of ask yourself, is their body language open or are they all closed off? Does their tone of voice actually match what they're saying? Because a lot of the time, those nonverbal cues are where the real story is. Okay, let's get practical. Let's talk about the actual toolkit, the how-to for becoming a better listener. And the great thing is, these are things you can literally start doing today. So these 7 techniques are pretty much the foundation of active listening. It all starts with just being fully present. And yeah, that means no multitasking. Then it's about paying attention to those nonverbal cues we just talked about, maintaining good eye contact, asking the right kinds of questions, reflecting back what you hear, and, maybe the hardest ones, being patient and holding back judgment. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these. All right, asking open-ended questions. This is a total game changer. So instead of a question that just stops the conversation in its tracks, like, did you have a good day? Which, is just going to get a yes or a no. Try asking something like, what was the most interesting part of your day? See the difference? One invites a story, not just a fact. It shows you're actually curious. Okay, next up is reflecting, or paraphrasing. This is another super powerful tool. So when you say something like, okay, so what I think I'm hearing is that you're feeling really overwhelmed by this deadline, you're actually doing 2 amazing things at once. First, you're making sure you understood them correctly, right? But second, and this is just as important, you make that person feel totally validated. They know you're not just hearing the noise, you are getting it. Okay, so we've talked about techniques. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about your overall mindset. Because being a great listener isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you don't do. I think it's really helpful to see these habits side by side, the things that block communication versus the things that enhance it. So on one side, you've got all the blockers, right? Interrupting, blaming, totally dismissing how someone feels. But on the other side, you have the enhancers, just staying quiet until they're done, showing some empathy, asking for more information to understand. And check this out, even a tiny switch from saying yes, but to yes, and can completely transform a disagreement into a real collaboration. All right, let's talk about one last super practical tool that kind of brings all of this stuff together. It's a way you can actually structure what you say to encourage other people to listen better to you.
and it helps shift a conversation from a fight to a team effort. We've all been there, right? On the receiving end of a you statement. The second you hear "you always" or "you never," what happens? Your walls go straight up. It feels like an attack. And just like that, the conversation is totally off the rails. It's not about solving a problem anymore. It's about who's right and who's wrong. But the alternative is to start with I. What this does is it totally shifts the focus from blaming them to just sharing your own experience. I feel stressed. That's just a fact about how you feel inside. It's not an accusation. It's just information about you. And it's way, way harder to argue with how someone feels, right? It invites empathy instead of making them defensive.
And there's actually a formula for this, and it's beautifully simple. It's 3 parts. First, you state your feeling. Start with "I feel." Second, you connect that feeling to a specific thing that happened, without judging, when the dishes are left in the sink. And third, you say what you want or need. So I'd really appreciate it if we could clean them up after we eat. So it's feeling, behavior, need. It's so clear, it's honest, and it's focused on finding a solution.
So when you boil it all down, the main takeaway is this. Active listening isn't just some fluffy soft skill or a nice little extra. It is the absolute bedrock of strong relationships, of solving problems effectively, and creating real, genuine connection in every single part of your life.
So as we wrap this up, let me leave you with a question to think about. Don't just file this away as interesting information, okay? I want you to think about the very next conversation you're going to have. Maybe it's with a coworker, a friend, your partner. What is just one technique we talked about that you can consciously try to use? Because that's how a skill stops being a theory and starts becoming a habit. Thanks for tuning in.